Hello guys, it is Gated Theories here, and we are back with a brand new tier list today. And today we are back doing the Tracy Beaker tier list. If you've been a fan of this channel for a while, you will know that we do Tracy Beaker tier lists, and our most recent series of doing this, we rated every single character from Tracy Beaker Returns, Story of Tracy Beaker, and The Dumping Ground. It was a 3-part series and it went on forever, but it was absolutely amazing. And in that series, since it was so successful, I thought you guys might want to see my opinions on the seasons of each individual show. So, similar to how we did the tier list before when we rated the characters, and if you want to go and check those out, there will be a link down below to the playlist, or you can go and click the card right up there. But similarly to how we did it then, what I did was every time I made a new tier list video, if it got a certain amount of likes or you guys were enjoying them, I would release the next one. So since there is 16 seasons altogether in the Tracy Beaker franchise, I thought let's split it into one video doing 8 seasons and then the next video doing the next 8 seasons, so that is not just all piled into one. So today we are going to be ranking every single season from the Story of Tracy Beaker and Tracy Beaker Returns. That's all 5 seasons from the original show and then 3 seasons from the return show, which means there's still 8 seasons left in the Dumping Ground. So if you do want to see an upcoming video with those 8 seasons, make sure that you smash that like button down below, comment as well, and if this video gets around 15 likes, I will release the next video with all of the Dumping Ground tiers added on to this list. But as always, let's get into this video. And before we go any further, I just want to remind you guys, this is my own opinion. You guys will probably have many different opinions to me, and that's awesome. So make sure you let me know down below while I'm going through this tier list what you think of every single season, and whether you have the same opinion or different opinion to me. And as always, before we go any further, please make sure that you click that red subscribe button down below and have your notifications turned on so that you get notified every time we make a brand new Tracy Beaker tier list. So let's get ranking those seasons. And just before we go on further into the tier list, I'm just going to let you guys know that we're basically going to be ranking these seasons as to how much we really enjoyed them, the story arcs, the character developments, and whether it has many good episodes compared to how many bad episodes it has. Is it a good season, or is it just a really dull season? But now that I've explained that to you, let's get on with ranking these seasons. So, here we are back with our tier list, and like I said, if you have been keeping up with our previous tier list, then you'll be very familiar with this. So, to run over the categories all over again, at the very top we have the Tracy Beaker tier list. This is the best season, so they are related straight away to Tracy Beaker, the best character, the one who started it all. Then, in second place, we have the DG family. You're really close to Tracy Beaker, you're a good, decent season, but you're not like the very top ones. Then we have relevant enough to be in Gus's notebook. You're a relevant season, you know, I would rewatch you again if I wanted to, but you're definitely not like one of the favourite seasons. Then we have more non-existent than Tracy's mum. Basically, the season is very forgettable. Like, it's not bad, but it's not great, just forgettable. Then we have Elaine the Pain's best mate. Of course, if you've seen the Tracy Beaker show, you will know that Elaine is one of the most annoying characters ever. Everyone hates them. So if this season is classed as Elaine the Pain's best mate, then it is a bad season. And then finally, we have the Just Bog Off tier, which is the final tier. Again, Tracy Beaker's famous catchphrase, just bog off. And it basically means we never want to see this season again. Like, it was such a bad season. We hope the TV show never tries to repeat anything like it. Hopefully there's going to be no seasons that end up in this Just Bog Off tier, but who knows. So at the bottom here we have all of our seasons labelled, from Story of Tracy Beaker, all 5 seasons of them, Tracy Beaker Returns, all 3 seasons, and The Dumping Ground, and all currently 8 seasons of that show. And like I said before, if you want us to do the Dumping Ground tier and get these ones on this list, then make sure that you smash that like button down below, and we will try and get that Dumping Ground tier list to you as soon as possible. But of course today, we will only be putting all of the Tracy Beaker ones into this tier list. So let's begin right off on the beginning with the Story of Tracy Beaker Series 1. Which one will it go into? Well, of course, this one introduced it all, and it set up Tracy and Cam's relationship, and it does really well with setting that up. And you could tell that this season was a pilot season. It introduced all of the characters, it introduced all of the relationships, and it ended off really nicely, covering all of the bases, just in case it never got renewed. So, of course, it ended with finally Cam fostering Tracy, showing that finally the story arc had been completed, and that was just in case the season never got renewed again. But of course, this season had to do a lot. It had to get the audience invested, and it had to get people to love this show, and considering how many seasons we have down here, clearly season 1 did very, very well. Was it the best season? Definitely not. Is it the most memorable season? Not very much, but it doesn't have any bad episodes. It does, however, have some really good ones, though. For example, like the Dare episode that's always remembered where Tracy eats the worm. I always love the virus episode where they have to go into quarantine and lockdown, mainly because it's weird to think that that's what we're going through right now. But I think it's not good enough to be in the DG family, but mainly good enough probably to be relevant enough to be in Gus's notebook. Like, it's a solid season, and without it, we wouldn't have anything, so we owe this season pretty much everything. Next, we have the story of Tracy Beaker Season 2. Now, this, of course, introduced some of the characters that we all love. Lol and Bouncer came in, as well as Dolly and Nathan, and there were some great episodes. For example, the one where Tracy tries to impress Amber, and when Tracy, in the finale, is almost adopted and Cam has to try and stop her. It is such a good episode, that one, and it builds on the relationships with all the established characters that we already had. And it has some good one-off episodes, and it was overall like a solid season. Like, it didn't have any bad episodes, but it just wasn't at the height that some of the other seasons get to. I don't think it was as bad to go in more non-existent than Tracy's mum, but it wasn't as good to go in the DG family. So again, I think this one's just relevant enough to be in Gus's notebook. Is it better than Season 1? I think that one depends. I'm going to put it behind Season 1 right now, just because of numerical order, but these two could easily switch at any point. Then we've got the story of Tracy Beaker Season 3. Now, this one introduced Jackie and Crash, who we all love, and the episodes with them and Tracy are very good at exploring their characters, and they are really well executed. There are some great episodes in this season. And we also had Shelley, who was a nice addition to the season, and it ends with the movie, which of course is awesome, and, you know, the movie's just on its own tier by itself. They did so well at bringing back Tracy's mum, and finally Cam properly fostering Tracy. So the movie's definitely going to make it go higher than it probably should. However, there was not many standout episodes. And I mean, like, I can't really remember any episodes from this season that really stood out to me. I can remember the first one. I can, of course, remember the movie. But none of the episodes were really that standing out. Like, I can remember it was a good season, but it's mainly just the movie holding it up. So I'm going to put it in more non-existent than Tracy's mum. It's an alright season, but quite forgettable if you don't watch it that often. Next we have Series 4. Of course, this one's going to go up here, just because it finally introduced the Wellards, who, I mean, come on, everyone loves the Wellards. And the characters were also introduced into a new care home, which was a nice variety from these 3 previous seasons, as we'd all been stuck in one place. Finally, we were at a new environment, which added some new variety. And Tracy was at home with Cam, which I thought was a really cool idea, because it created room for excellent episodes, such as when they give each other points and create a graph of how well they're doing with each other. And when Cam's mum comes to stay, it gives a new idea as to what life is like with Tracy and Cam just on their own, and what life is like in the dumping ground without Tracy. But of course, Tracy didn't leave the dumping ground. She was still coming in all the time. So I think this one's definitely like a DG family one. It's not the best season ever, but it is a solid season with some great standoff episodes. Then we have Story Tracy Beaker Series 5. Of course, this one is wanting to be top tier. Is it though? Probably not. I think the main problem that I have with this one is that Tracy's living with Cam, as she has been in Series 4. However, she just doesn't really appear that much, especially at the beginning of Series 5, in the actual dumping ground. The downside meant that sometimes there were episodes in Series 5 where Danny Harmer didn't even show up at all and only had a voiceover, for example in the first ever episode. And I'd call this season basically like a tester season. I know it was the last one, but you could tell they were testing out different ideas. For For example, what was life like without Tracy in the DG, and that later, of course, formed the Dumping Ground, which we all know and love. There was also the alternate reality episode, which I think was an amazing episode. That was one of the great episodes that stood out, where it tested how Tracy would do as a care worker, hinting at the future of Tracy Beaker Returns, and gave pathway for alternate reality episodes such as Jodie in Wonderland in the future, and Tyler Island in the Dumping Ground. However, some episodes were just plain and bad, such as the ones that focus on new characters like Scary Millie and Alice testing everyone's psychic abilities. It just got a bit weird, and without Tracy constantly being there at the Dumping Ground, it did slack slightly. But there is some good ones, such as Crash facing his fears, and of course the finale, which I thought was amazing, where Tracy finally gets adopted by Cam. But it only really had a few standout moments, and then everything else just sort of went back. So I'm afraid the final season, I'm going to have to put it in Elaine the Pain's Best Mate. I might move that, but right now it's going down there because it wasn't as good as any of these 4 seasons, in my personal opinion. Next we have Tracy Beaker Returns Series 1. Now this one had to do something amazing. It had to bring the fans back, and it definitely did. There was so much hype around when it all returned, and it had been off for 5 years currently, and everyone was just so excited to have Tracy back as a care worker, and I think they did her character really, really well in that situation. There was a clear story arc to this season as well. It began with Tracy first becoming a care worker, and then at the very end in the finale, which was a pretty nice finale, not like the biggest finale we ever had, but it just ended nicely with whether Tracy was going to go off to another care home or whether she was going to stay here. And it did have to do the hard job of re-establishing all the characters with some new ones, and there were some good episodes, but none that fully stood out from the rest of the episodes in Tracy Beaker Returns in the later seasons. There were some amazing ones, for example Anarchy in the DG, where Tracy's left alone as a care worker. That is one of my favourite episodes ever. But that's the only huge standout one. And then there is, unfortunately, in the season, some really big forgettable ones, such as the werewolf. I mean, if you can remember that episode, tell me in the comments. That's basically where Sapphire's brother returns. But, I mean, to me, I completely forgot that episode until I rewatched it only a couple of months ago. So, this season didn't really have the best of episodes ever, but it did re-establish the show. So, I'm going to put it in relevant enough to be in Gus's notebook. Next we have Tracy Beaker Returns Series 2, and this one was absolutely amazing, a much bigger step up than from Tracy Beaker Returns Series 1. Of course, we had Elektra being introduced, and if you've seen my tier list on the characters, she is one of my favourite characters for lots and lots of reasons. There was loads and loads of stakes as well, and tension was building up throughout the season, and that's what I like about Tracy Beaker Returns, probably more than any of the other shows, is that in the original series, there wasn't really much high stakes. In Tracy Beaker Returns Series 2, it literally began with someone falling off the roof. The stakes were very high, and it was amazing. And there were some classic episodes in this season. For example, Out of Control, where Liam helps this old guy on his scooter. There was Snakebite, where Elektra returns to her old gang. There was the episode called Elektra, where Elektra is introduced. As you can see, there's a running trend here. Really do like that character. And then classic ones such as A Day in the Countryside, which I'm sure every person watching this video has seen. It had highs and lows for characters as well, and delved into them quite seriously. For example, Frank's granddad when he died, Lily of course falling off the roof and having to deal with that, Liam having to deal with always getting in trouble, you had Carmen getting annoyed from being at Burningwood, you had Johnny and T having to fall out in certain episodes because one was getting fostered and one wasn't. It just had those highs and lows for the characters that I really wanted, which all the other seasons don't seem to delve much into. And the ending is good, don't get me wrong, but compared to the likes of the first episodes, it just doesn't really work. The first episode, of course, we had huge stakes. Lily's falling off the roof, Dumping Ground's getting shut down, everyone's leaving. Incredible. And then the finale slacked slightly. That's the only downfall of this season. The finale wasn't the best. It had some good moments, delving more into Tracy's mental health, but it didn't really have the huge stakes that the first few episodes of the season had. Does that mean it's any worse? No, the season is still amazing. So I'm going to put this one right up. It's not Tracy Beaker tier just, but it is in the DG family, and it's going at the top. It's so close to getting into that Tracy Beaker tier. It's just amazing. And then finally, we have Series 3, and if you've seen Tracy Beaker Returns, and you've seen all the rest of the seasons, I think you can all agree this one's going right up to the top in the Tracy Beaker category by far. It brings focus onto every single character in every single episode, even the filler episodes, and there is huge character development. It also introduced Jodie and Tyler, who, if you see in the dumping ground, without them, I don't really think it would have been carrying on, so we've got to thank them for that. Like I said, it brought focus onto each character. For example, Tracy, when she has to deal with Justine returning, it brought Justine back. I mean, that's just putting it at the top just for that simple reason. It delved into a full episode on T's character, on Jodie's character, on Electra's character, on Johnny's character, and the stakes were just high for all of them and just high throughout the entire season. Even each individual so-called filler episode still had those high stakes with lots of tension building up. Most notably, episode 8 of the season, where Johnny has run away, and of course you can tell it's just a filler episode, but it has lots and lots of high stakes for 3 characters, Sapphire, Electra, and Johnny. It's just amazing. And for me personally, there is only like really one bad episode in this season, and that is the invitation, which is the second last episode, but like, it wasn't even that bad. It just didn't look as good compared to how brilliant the rest of these episodes were. It began with a huge intro with the Burning Wood lot finally returning, and of course, Burning Wood had been built up ever since season 1 of the story of Tracy Beaker. It had been building up right from the beginning, and finally we got to see what these Burning Wood people were like. There was the big fire, there was the giant lockdown where there was padlocks everywhere, the stakes were huge, and then of course the finale was just amazing. It's definitely one of the best finales I've ever seen, where we had Tracy Beaker finally leaving the dumping ground for good, and we had that whole thing with Mike almost dying underneath the flat. There was just so many stakes even for the final episode, and the stakes kept on going, and that is definitely why Tracy Beaker Returns Series 3 is by far the best. So, there is our completed tier list, and I hope you guys like what I've done with it. If you have any other opinions about where your favourite seasons might go, then make sure you let me know down below in the comments, and let me know where on earth you would place your seasons in your very own tier list, and let me know whether you agree with any of my picks or whether you completely disagree. Let me know all of your thoughts down below in the comments. Also, while you're down there, make sure that you smash that like button down below, and then we can get the brand new dumping ground ones added into this tier list as well. Once it gets around 15 likes, I will introduce this next video, so make sure that you like it if you want to see the next one coming up. And if you want to check out this tier list for yourself or do it yourself, there will be a link down below in the description to the tier list so that you can just go and click on it and do it yourself. And make sure you tag us on social media with your very own tier list so that we can see how you would rank your own. But as always, we've been here on Gate of Theories. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.